Why pantry cooking is the secret to easier meals. Let me ask you something. How many times have you opened the refrigerator, stood there for a moment, and still had no idea what to make for dinner? You stare at a few leftovers, maybe some vegetables, something in the back that may or may not still be good, and after a minute or two, you close the door again, still wondering what you're going to cook. Now, here's the funny thing. A lot of the time, the answer isn't actually in the refrigerator at all. It's in the pantry. Hello, friend, and welcome to the This Old Baker podcast. I'm Kim from This Old Baker, where we believe good meals start with simple ingredients and a well-stocked pantry. So pull up a chair here at the pantry table, and let's spend a few minutes talking about real kitchens, simple cooking, and the pantry staples that make everyday meals easier. And today, I want to talk about something that quietly makes cooking less stressful. Pantry cooking. You know, for a long time, people thought the pantry was just a place to store things. Cans, boxes, bags of rice, maybe a few spices. But if you step back and look at it differently, the pantry is really something else entirely. It's a kitchen safety net. It's the quiet place where dinner waits patiently, even when you didn't have time to go to the grocery store. And once you start thinking of the pantry that way, cooking becomes a whole lot easier. I remember a night not too long ago when I opened the refrigerator and realized I didn't have much to work with. A little leftover chicken, some vegetables that were almost ready to be used, and not quite enough for a full meal. But when I opened the pantry door, that's when things changed. There was rice on the shelf, a jar of tomatoes, some dried spices, and within a few minutes, what looked like not much suddenly became dinner. A simple skillet meal. Rice, chicken, tomatoes, a few spices. Nothing fancy, but warm, satisfying, and made entirely from things that were already in the kitchen. And that's when it really clicked for me. The pantry isn't just storage, it's possibility. Pantry cooking works because it gives you flexibility. Instead of relying on one specific ingredient, you start building meals around staples. Things that are always there. Rice, pasta, beans, canned tomatoes, flour, sugar. Simple ingredients that can turn into dozens of different meals. When those staples are in place, you never really start dinner from zero. You're always starting with something. Another reason pantry cooking makes life easier is because it removes a lot of the pressure around planning. We've all had those moments when a recipe calls for one ingredient we forgot to buy. Maybe it's broth, maybe it's a spice, maybe it's a sauce. And suddenly the whole recipe feels like it won't work anymore. But when you cook from the pantry, recipes become more flexible. You start thinking in categories instead of exact ingredients. Grain, protein, vegetables, seasoning. Once you understand those building blocks, you can create meals from almost anything. And that's where spices come in, because spices are often the quiet heroes of pantry cooking. A pot of rice tastes fine on its own, but a pinch of garlic powder, a little paprika, maybe some cumin. Suddenly that same pot of rice becomes something entirely different. The same ingredients, just a different flavor. And that's the beauty of pantry cooking. The pantry doesn't just store ingredients, it stores options. There's another advantage too. Pantry cooking saves money. When your pantry is stocked with basics, You're less likely to run to the store for every meal. Instead, you start using what you already have. A bag of beans turns into soup. A box of pasta becomes dinner. A jar of tomatoes becomes sauce. Little by little, the pantry starts working for you instead of the other way around. And something else happens when you start cooking this way. The kitchen becomes calmer because you're not constantly wondering what's missing. You know what's on the shelf. You know what you can build from it. And that confidence makes cooking feel easier. Not rushed, not stressful, just manageable. Now, one thing I always recommend is keeping a few reliable pantry staples on hand. Not dozens of ingredients, just a few dependable ones: rice, pasta, beans, canned tomatoes, flour, oats, and a handful of spices you enjoy cooking with. Those simple ingredients are the backbone of countless meals: soups, casseroles, skillet dinners, even baked goods. Once those staples are in place, your pantry becomes the starting point for almost everything you cook. This is actually the same idea behind many of the pantry mixes I share on this old baker. Those mixes are simply combinations of pantry staples, measured and blended in a way that makes cooking faster. Soup mixes, seasoning blends, baking mixes. They all begin with the same kinds of ingredients we've been talking about today: rice, beans, spices, flour, simple pantry foods that turn into real meals. And if you've never really thought about your pantry that way before, this is a great place to start. Open the pantry door. Look at what's already there. You might be surprised how many meals are quietly waiting on those shelves. Sometimes we think we need more ingredients, when what we really need is just a different way of looking at the ones we already have. So the next time you're wondering what to make for dinner, try starting with the pantry first. Look at the grains, look at the beans, look at the spices. Ask yourself what those ingredients could become. Because once you start cooking this way, the pantry stops being storage and starts becoming inspiration. If you'd ever like to see some of the pantry mixes and simple recipes I build from these kinds of ingredients, you can always visit me at thisoldbaker.com. That's where I share the mixes and pantry ideas I keep right here in my own kitchen. From my kitchen to yours, I'm Kim from This Old Baker. Until next time. Keep those jars full and something good in the oven.